Better farmers and better business owners.
It's not on. Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm really excited about that video because it was actually filmed here in Winkler, Manitoba with one of our accountants. And it was done actually in October. If everybody, I know it's ingrained in everyone's brains, the October snowstorm hit. And they actually had to come back 3 weeks later to get harvest shots. So pretty excited to show it to the group here. Everybody come on in and have a seat. Get comfortable, take your jackets off. I'm supposed to announce that if anyone would like to sign up for the CCA forms, they're up at the top. The Certified Crop Advisor forms are up at the top, and you can help yourself to those. So I'm Maggie Van Camp. I'm BDO's National Agriculture Practice Development Lead. Quite a handle, but what really this means is that my job, or part of my job, is to get the 160 offices across Canada all rowing in the same direction. I equate it to somewhat like herding barn cats. You know, you'd really like to kick one, but you don't. One of those deals. At any rate, we've decided to row in the same direction toward being integral to our farm clients' success. That's where we're headed, and we want to do that with services. So we actually picked two oars, I call them two paddles, to go toward. And one of those is financial benchmarking. And that's why there's a bench on the stage here. If everyone can look down, it's made out of hockey sticks from the Brandon Wheat Kings. And it's a one-of-a-kind created from Portage La Prairie. And it's a beautiful piece you can actually win. So if you go to our booth or you go to the salon, you will be able to get a draw ticket. And I think there's draw tickets. They were handing them out as you got in. So if you fill that out and give it to someone with a BDO shirt, they'll make sure you're in the draw, free draw for the bench, for the benchmarking. There's also hockey pucks there to get as well. They're kind of fun. The other oar that we've been using to go toward the success for farm clients is succession. And we identified this as a problem when the 2016 census came out, and only 8.4% of farms had a succession plan. I mean, it's really not that surprising. If you think about it, farmers today, we've never, ever lived this long. Usually death took care of transition for us. We're living well into our 80s. And we have multiple generations. I was just talking to the Weebs, and the grandfather still comes out and helps. Dad's on there running the farm, and their 23-year-old son is helping as well. So 3 generations on that farm. Never before have our farms been this complex. Technology, amazing. Like, think about farms 20 years ago. Human resources, environmental. Think about the scale of our farms today, way more complex than ever before, and of course our business structures. And never before have our farm values been worth this much. The Weebs said they bought farmland, potato ground, in 1971 for $170 an acre. Unbelievable. I talked to FCC last year, and they said in the next 10 years, Canadian agriculture has $60 billion worth of farm assets to transfer. No wonder we need more planning. No wonder we need to move ahead with this. So at BDO, we decided what we're going to do is hire the best. And that's what we did. Elaine Froese, I get to announce, is working for BDO over the next couple of years. She's going to be, Elaine is a farm family coach, and she farms with her family near Boissevain, Manitoba. And I think Wes is here. He's up there. Wes, Elaine's been called the farm whisperer with her coaching. And it struck me that today that maybe whispering isn't really an Elaine adjective. She should not be a whisperer. She's pretty flamboyant and exciting. She is walking the journey of transition with families because her own family is going through that. And so she can give some very practical information. She's also training our accountants how to have these conversations, how to ask the questions so they don't focus necessarily just on tax, but they also ask the questions to make sure that your farm families are happy in this transition. She is available for coaching not only to BDO clients, but we can engage, if you don't do accounting with our firm, we can do that work for you. So she's available to do that, along with our whole business transition team. So we have a whole team behind us. Elaine's also very famous for her writing, and she has written 4 books. She is a beloved columnist in Grain News with her Seeds of Encouragement column. She actually has 25 years coming up under her belt as a columnist for Grain News, and that's pretty exciting because I worked with her back in the 90s when I was senior editor there. So congratulations, Elaine, on that. Elaine won an award a few years ago with Farm Management Canada, and that award was for her contribution to Canadian business. And she has developed tools, she's helped so many farm families, and certainly that was very useful. But I think Elaine's superpower you're going to see today, she is a fantastic public speaker. And she equates that actually to her 4-H years. You know, the whole pledge. She actually, I recently heard her speak, and she had the whole crowd doing the 4-H pledge. You know, my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to greater service, my health to better living. And Elaine actually, she embodies that vow in a deep, deep way. She won last year. You won the most distinguished 4-H Alumni Award in Saskatoon, and she holds that very dearly to her heart. She is a fantastic speaker because she's very practical, and she is a powerful woman full of ideas, a powerful woman full of experience, and a powerful motivator. So please, everybody, get settled in. Get ready to be wowed by Elaine Froese. Please welcome her.
So, I promised my friend Larry that this would not be too loud. So Troy, if you could just give a handshake at the back, folks, if it's not too loud for you. I'm curious, what's keeping you up awake at night, these nights? Many of you know my friend Beanie Baby Ox, the bull that's in the middle of your farm family, that you absolutely know, after you've been to Ag Days this week, that you can't not talk about him anymore. And I'll let him keep him company right there. Finding fairness in farm transition is typically the first thing that families who call me tick off on my key challenges sheet. Okay, Troy, are you with me? Advance the slide. I would like to have better audio here. Can you run down and give me an advancer, please? Next slide. So what we're looking for in agriculture is a total mindset shift. Maggie just told you never before have farmers been living as long as they are. My oldest client is 96 years old. That's wrong. He should have had all of his affairs taken care of before he turned 75. Dr. Nell, who many of you know in Boissevain, our beloved doctor from South Africa, sat Wes and I down when we were in our early 60s, and he said, "Look, you two, you have 15 good years left. You better start having some fun." Okay. So he went to New Zealand that year. Do you remember 2011? You probably don't want to remember it. It's the year you didn't really put a crop in. It's now 2020, and we can't keep not doing the work. My work now with BDO all across Canada with Maggie's leadership and Brent Van Paris of Business Transition Services is all about getting her done. And the mindset shift we have to have is to really, really watch our vocabulary and ask really good questions. And if you come back at 4 o'clock, Rex Murphy is going to be speaking, the famous wordsmith craftsman from The Rock. And I would love to hear him speak, but I'll be in Salon B, down Main Street, and you hang a left right beside the show office. Because any of you who want to spend time with me, I want you to come and talk about this mindset shift that we can talk about in Salon B after I finish speaking. But here's the deal. I am now 63 years old. The last time I spoke at Ag Days, I was 30 pounds lighter. It's a long time ago. And some of you were still in that audience because I saw one of you this morning. I have 2 years left to help you break through that procrastination, stop putting things off, and learn to do the conflict avoidance dance no more on your farm. So let's just have a little conversation here. Fairness in my books is helping everyone in your family be successful. I used to collect smiley faces when I was a teenager. I want everybody in your family to love coming back to the farm. I am not going to listen to any more sad stories in agriculture. Hashtag healing stories #4 ag. Please put that in your Twitter feed. Hashtag healing stories for agriculture. It's time for us to stop using fear-based marketing and look at what my definition, this is the mindset shift. There is one word you will not hear me say this afternoon, and that's sugar sweetener, also known as equal. Equal is no longer part of my vocabulary because conflict avoidance has to stop. You run multi-million-dollar colonies, multi-million-dollar farms. Land prices, as Maggie alluded to, have never been this high. And who said you had to give your land away all in one chunk? It's not all or nothing thinking. So my goal with us today is to have a conversation. Everybody get your phone out. Please put this number in your phone. This is my number. When I pick up the phone and say, hello, Elaine Froese, Farm Family Coach, people on the other side say, is that really you? I go, yeah, this is my number. So what you're going to do this afternoon is you're going to text me. And the first text I want you to send me is, what in the issue of finding fairness in farm transition is keeping you awake at night? And I want this for the benefit of the whole audience because there is years and years and decades of wisdom and experience in this room. Wes and I just harvested, well, Wes and Ian and Mike and Barry, I was the meals person, they just harvested our 42nd crop. We had a beautiful crop. We started July 26th. We finished December 18th. I'm sorry, I will not do FaceTime audio with you at the moment. Okay? Just send me a simple text. Thank you. I want to know, what is your most pressing question? Because this session is about you. We'll be here till 5 to 2, and then we can all renegotiate talking at Salon B. Elaine, the non-farming child, how do we help them in our succession plan? Absolutely. So I want you to listen to the 3 key questions. If you figure out these 3 questions, your transition plan, which we now call farm transition, we won't call it succession anymore, because succession used to imply that there was a queen or a king sitting on the throne, and you had to knock the king off or the queen in order to get management and control of the farm. That was then, and this is now. So let's practice this together. This is a very useful phrase for you to use. Say it with me. That was then, this is now. I have hockey pucks for prizes. Come on. That was then, this is now. You need to understand that your role as the founder is not shifting to leaving the farm completely, because Iowa State did a study and less than 30% of farmers are ever going to retire. So it's not about retirement. But your question is, Elaine, how do we treat the non-farm heirs? So here's my 3 questions that I want you to put on the sticky side of your mind for the rest of this winter. Number 1, where are we going to get income from? What is our personal wealth bubble going to look like? I also have a whole sheet that you can text this number to, and just in the message line write Kickstart, and you'll get a conversation that Maggie and I had for 3 hours about how to get that conversation started. So the first question is, in relationship to this text, is where is your income coming from? And some of you are saying, well, Elaine, I'm not sure, and I'm going to get back to this. The second question is, where are you going to live? The last time I spoke at Ag Days, back about 10 or 11 years ago, my message was, don't split the yard. Don't break Elaine Froese's half-mile rule. Well, over in that section is my beautiful daughter-in-law, Kendra, my son, Ian, and my 2 grandbabies. They live right next door to us. We didn't split the yard, but we invited them to live in their new house. So guess what? I saved $700,000 because I didn't have to move. So sometimes when I say that was then and this is now, you might be on this planning bench and thinking, well, this is what we planned, but sometimes things shift. So I want you to think about your income streams, where you're going to live, and then that's the third question, which relates to the text I just got. The third question is, what is fair? And a couple who answered my survey when we were writing Farming's In-Law Factor said, Elaine, how do we explain to our non-farm kids that they aren't getting a very raw deal? And so my family's listening to me today, which is a rare occasion, but we have more than one child. And our daughter, who has a university education, became ill and cannot work. So her life is always going to be different than her farming brothers. So here's another phrase that pays that I want you to remember. Different is not wrong, it's just different. Not every child is going to be treated the same. And here's the acronym. When you leave this afternoon, there's a postcard that you can take, and you're saying, man, I wish my daughter-in-law was here, or man, I wish my son was here. No worries. You take the postcard with you, and you can watch this entire presentation on YouTube. But FAIR stands for financial transparency, your attitudes towards money. What is your intention? My intention is for our daughter to have a great life. It's just not going to look the same as our farming sons. And now I have a very hard question for you. Where is it written that you as parents have to make all of your children economically equal? Oops, I said the word. Where was that written? And in some families, it is written that way, and that's what's making it so hard. So the first F is finances. These are the things that you need to be transparent about. And BDO has a wealth management division, does fee-for-service financial planning. Jason is here today from Winnipeg. If you'd like to meet him, he'll be in Salon B after this. But I'm a home economist by degree. So here's your next text to me. 204-534-7466. Okay, next question is, how do we help our farming child be successful? That's next year's seminar. How you help your farming child be successful is you listen to what their needs are, and you also explain to them what is going on in the finances. Very often I cannot believe this, meeting 20 and 30-year-old farm successors who have not got the ability to write checks, and they've never seen the farm balance sheet. That stops now. If you don't have financial literacy with your farm, you're what I call a slave, or at the very best, an employee. You are not a future successor because you don't have an understanding of what's going on. So debt servicing is a really key piece of this. Land prices, as you know. Can your son or daughter buy your land? Not likely. They can buy pieces of it possibly. Maybe they can start buying into the farm equipment line, but there's no way that many farmers can do that. And this is an FCC-sponsored theater, and every time I speak, I send people to their lender of choice, and quite often it is FCC, because they will sit down with the farming son or daughter successor and say, oh, by the way, Charlie, you're worth about able to leverage $750K. And I have a story from Saskatchewan where the farming young man said, Elaine, my dad went to the financial planner like you suggested, and he can't finance just giving me the farm. I said, so how much are you good for? And he said, well, I have no idea. I said, well, why don't you find out? There's this very clear wisdom principle. You do not have because you do not ask. And I'm just pouring myself out to you this afternoon to say, start asking better questions. Change your questions, change your life. In the gift to heirs, have you ever sat each of your children down separately and asked them what they want? Because at my meeting with my parents who farm near Winnipeg, when my mother was 65 years old, I very clearly said to her, I expect nothing from you and Dad from your estate or this farm. And how could I say that? Because I didn't need anything from my parents financially, and I had already been given the most important thing, which was their love, their leadership, their nurture, their respect. Plus, my mom had given me a black mink coat that she bought with a truckload of wheat in 1980, and she gave me this, and I'd wear it, and after she died, I'd wear it to church or wear it somewhere like an Ag Day thing, and they'd say, oh, seed business must be really good in Boisvane. And I said, this is a gift from my dead mother. I didn't say it that way, I just thought it. Sometimes you need to think things and not say them, correct? Okay, so gift to heirs, my point on this one is ask. Ask your adult children, what are their expectations? And then the whole part about cash flow is, we're going to have a bit of a crunch this spring because we're going to have a very interesting spring, which I'm sure is keeping you up at night already. But what are your plans to control what you can control? And what you can control is how you spend your money for basics and not the non-essentials, all right? So what is the viability of the farm? Have you ever sat down with FCC, your bank, the credit union, a financial planner, and found out, what can this farm cash flow? How many families can this farm actually support? So income stream expectations are really, really important. So again, in debt servicing, how much debt can you sleep with? Now, my daughter-in-law is sitting in the audience today. She usually is not, but I speak about her, and she knows this because she's watched the videos. She comes from the city, which to me is great because she's a clean slate for learning about agriculture, and she's happy to do it. But she needed to be taught about current, intermediate, and long-term debt because that was not part of her reality. I worked for farm debt mediation with families who were losing their farms for 10 years with Jerry Friesen, Glenn Friesen, and Andrew Durock, who many of you know. So my question is this: how much debt do you as a founder feel comfortable with? And how much debt do you as a successor feel comfortable with? Because as a farm kid, I'm good. $600,000 operating loan doesn't keep me awake at night because I know we can service it, all right? So your financial awareness of the big picture is really critical, and we can have that conversation. The next thing is your attitude about money. My father was born in 1926, which made him 10 years old in 1936. My grandmother washed plastic bags. How many of you in this room wash plastic bags still, besides me? Okay, Maggie and I do. Because that's a way we can save money, and it's part of the way we were raised, okay? It's a thing. It's just a thing that we do. But what is your money script? Are you living from an abundance mentality, and especially in 2020, are you rich in Brandon, Manitoba, and in Manitoba this year? Are you rich? Scotiabank would say, richer than you think. You are rich. You came in a vehicle that was heated today and maybe even had a leather handle that was heated, steering wheel. You had a hot shower sometime, I hope, in the last week, right? You had a bed to sleep on. I just came back from Israel and we were in Israel when the general got assassinated and when the Iranian plane went down. Our kids were texting us, please come home, please come home. We came home. But when you travel and when you see how other people are forced to live, let us at least be thankful. But we have farm family kids. And here's the news flash. No matter how much money you give your children, it'll never be, I didn't hear you, enough. Right? And so this is the child who's in my family meeting with his parents sitting in the circle who says, you know, Dad, it would just be so much better if you died. And his mother started crying, weeping. She said, I can't believe you said that, because his money script and his attitudes were very careless. And Dr. Cole calls that KT, killer toys. So I saw your tweets this morning about the new Skidoo, killer toy. I might see a tweet about your new snowblade that you spent $35,000 on. And Ian has this saying, buy once, cry once. If you buy quality, you cry when you buy it, but it's going to last you for a long time. So I'm just curious, what are the money scripts that are keeping you stuck? And are you trying so hard to say, oh, Elaine, I have 4 children. I have to give them exactly the same thing. And my response to you is, where is that written? There's a wonderful book called Emotional Blackmail by Susan Forward that says, where is it written? And so for those of you who are successors, who I really want to empower today, I want you to go home from Ag Days and talk to your partner or your spouse on the way home, and I want you to craft a business plan on 1 page. I want you to prove to your parents that you have good ideas, that they're viable, and you know how you're going to pay for them. Because the parents are kind of sitting back and waiting for you to make a move, and you are calling me and saying, Elaine, they're driving me crazy. I can't even get them to the table. Not only my parents, but my grandparents. And therein lies another problem about money scripts. Because if you think money means security, I know there's men in this room right now who are sitting with $500,000 in their bank account. And why is that? Because it makes them feel secure. My father, unfortunately, came from a scarcity mentality, and he lived on $18,000, $500 a month. So my next question is in the text, and I'll give it to you. How do we get enough money, Elaine, out of the farm to allow the older generation to retire while making it feasible for the next generation to take over? Easy peasy question. You start meeting with advisors. The first thing you do is figure out, what do you need as the founders to live? A hog farmer in London, Ontario said, Elaine, when the hog cycle is really awful, I can live on $18,000 a year. When it's really good, I can live on $50,000. Most of you young farmers in this room would die if I made you live on $50,000 a year, because your number is higher. It's more like $75,000 or $84,000. So the first critical question is not how do you get more money out of the farm. The first question is, what do you actually really need? And then the next question becomes, is the money going to come out of the farm, out of your operating company, out of inventory, or is it going to come out of the land? So in our case, we can rent land to our son and get rental income. We can have farm income from our crops. And then the other piece that it can come from is from our personal wealth bubble. But the question, if you listen to it carefully, he said, Elaine, how do we get money out of the farm? Because the problem that many of you have in this room is that this number on the personal bubble side is very low. And please do not tell me that you don't know what a TFSA is. Because if you don't know what that is, you already have some basic literacy issues, which means you need to go to a financial planner. Allowing the older generation to retire. Retire from what? What does that mean? In our world, retirement is Wes will work when he wants to, and Ian will always have the privilege of starting the semi when it's minus 42 with the wind chill. Okay? That's Wes's definition of retirement. 3 questions. Where do you want to live? Wherever Elaine lives. How much income do you want to have a year? Oh, maybe $120K. Third question. What do you want to do? Work when I feel like it. There's no point in having 20-page planning binders for farmers who use 3-word sentences. All right? And I love my husband dearly, and he knows that. But you guys are like that too. You people are like that too. How do you transition a farm to multiple children when one of them is more capable of running the business? Very good question. So the question becomes, we have a family circle. You'll always be a family to love and nurture and respect each other. The next piece is we have a business. It's called a farm. And 2020, the risk, the dollars amounts that we're putting through our accounts and how much is sticking in our jeans at the end of the day is critical that you manage your farm based on merit. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a conversation as to merit. Who is the person skilled in the business to be the main manager, and who's the person to be an employee, the mechanic, the marketer, or whatever the job description is. Now, BDO has very kindly given you draw slips. And what I'd like you to do with these slips is just write down the word job description, give it to BDO, and I will send you in email a 7-page job description that you can cherry pick from that's from the work of Dick Whitman. If you go on my website, I have 19 tools to help you with this problem. But the main thing is just because you're the oldest kid, daughter or son, doesn't mean you're the one who's based on merit that should get that job. Why do we presume we need to worry about a gift? Absolutely. And so this text is about how you accept gifts. So everybody put your hand out like this right now. This is the gift of receiving. This is what we experienced just recently with Christmas. But now I want you to take your hand and put it on top. This is the hand of giving. Which hand has more power? It's the one on top. And this is the lesson we learned from Wes's mom when she was palliative for 4 months dying of lung cancer. She said, I love to give, but now I have to learn how to receive. And in farm transition planning, my attitude thing about money is, where is it written that you can only transfer land in a will? I would beg you to update your wills this month. January's almost over. Do it in February. Send me a text or an email that you've done it, and I'll give you a new ebook that I just wrote. That'll be my reward for you doing that. The other thing I want you to think about is that you don't have to give or transfer gifts all in one big piece. With good advisory from your accountant and your legal and your financial planner and your coach, you can do it in stages. Okay? It's not all or nothing thinking. Money does not equal love. This is what I value and what I believe. But some of you do believe this because you say, Elaine, if my dad really loved me, he'd give me $100,000 by Friday. And actually, we did that. We had to because Ian's landlord broke his lease, and he's 21 years old, and he says, Dad, I want to buy this quarter, but it's $220K. Where am I going to get the money? And we said, Ian, here's the deal. We'll transfer 1 quarter to you that we call the pasture quarter that's only 80 acres arable. And someday if you want to have bison on it, that's fine. But we transferred it with a warm hand, all right? So this is a picture of Ian where I'm delivering meals to the field to him. The other thing you want to get clear on in terms of, do you in the family have the same vision for the farm? So last week we were in Stratford, Ontario with a funnel that Maggie bought at Princess Auto. So here's the big picture for financial planning and fairness transition. You start at the big stuff first. What do you want this farm to look like next year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? And you start with the big picture. And by the time you've had all that discussion for fairness and transition, you get down to the bottom spout, which is when you start talking about the tax and the efficiencies and tweaking the plan. But so many of you are coming to your accountant and saying, I don't care what you do, Charlie, just save me tax. That's the wrong approach. And that's why you're not going. So I want you to look at what you truly believe to be true and what you truly value. And in my family of origin, I valued my parents and I valued my farming brother. So I did not expect to get a chunk of my parents' or my brother's farm because that wasn't doable. That wasn't going to happen. I also want you to know that if you're not being well served with whoever's advising you, where is it written that you can't hire a new advisor? And you can read my article on this. They say that breaking up is hard to do, and you know that it's true. Don't say that this is the end, because when we broke up with our accountant, she cried. But we didn't move companies, we just moved accountants so that we would have a different service for how our scenario was changing. And we're loyal. The other thing you need to know that Maggie also mentioned is that BDO will not take away your business from another accounting firm, but they will add to the value by giving you tax specialty or other advisement. So as she mentioned, even if you're not a BDO client, you can still work with me. That's fine. But here's the news flash. If you want me to come or work with your family through Zoom, through the video computer, through FaceTime, you have to do it in the next 24 months. Because this is going to be me with my granddaughter Penny and my granddaughter Ruby, and we're going to be out on our farm getting booters in the spring. And that's what I'm going to be doing 24 months from now. So listen up and respond to those questions. Okay, next question. How do you facilitate or encourage farm transition planning when they come from a generation of you never sell or dispose of land? What sort of services can you give to help that conversation? Therein is a fear and there is a value. I heard a story last week of a young woman whose name, let's call her Brown. She will not inherit the land, first of all, because she's female. Don't get me started on that workshop. Second thing is the grandfather's very entrenched beliefs. And that's why that's an important conversation to have with an advisor who is willing to push buttons, ask hard questions, and challenge the existing values. Okay, so I hope I've answered that. If you're up against that scenario, you may have to go into land agreements of non-family members. And so there's a whole concept of if you're not getting along with your parents and they're not coming to the table to respond carefully to your concerns, where are you going to go? You're going to go down the road. I have a family in Manitoba. He worked in the oil patch. She's a nurse. Their parents did not treat them well. And I said, so, do you have a bachelor guy down the road? And they said, yeah, Elaine, how did you know? I said, there's a few bachelors left in the country. So they went to him and they said, what would it look like if we went into business together? Because you're not my father. And he said, sure. And they did it. And it's called a joint venture agreement. And what you need to understand is joint venture agreements are great. And also for dairy farmers, because I have a young man in the Interlake who came home from the seminar and said, Elaine, thank you so much. I said, what happened? He said, I finally figured out how to get a free weekend. What are you going to do? I'm going to go in a joint venture with a non-family member so he and I can have alternate weekends off and our families don't collide. So don't prejudge what the outcome is going to be. The other thing in conflict resolution is, what do you intend? Do you intend to intentionally cause harm to your family? No. Nobody who's healthy emotionally intends for that to happen. So when I spoke to my mother on July 21st, 1998, I said, Mom, you and Dad have worked so hard. It's time that you start to enjoy the fruit of your labor. And young people in this room, your parents don't know how to have fun. Right? They've worked hard, they've saved, they've sacrificed. And some of them, yes, do know how to have fun. But the majority of you who have now the wealth that you've already hoped to have, you go, oh, Elaine, this wealth is all tied up. Okay, so then my question is, now that you have an expensive land base, you have a farming successor, son and daughter, what is it that you truly want? Because as a coach, I'm taking care of you first. Because you are the founders, you're the ones who created the wealth with the help of your children and other people. But ultimately, you have to be taken care of first. So we have to define, what does a good day look like to you on the farm? And how do you want to enjoy your wealth? And for Wes and I now, our true wealth is in relationship. We just want to stay home and have the grandkids over. That's a good day on the farm. But we also want to still be actively participating in the wealth creation and the growth of that multi-million-dollar business. But my mother looked at me and she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Mom, I don't need your wealth." And the sad part of my story is that she dropped dead in my father's lap on Taché Avenue 6 weeks later. And so she died at age 65. There's a bit of an emotional thing for me. Troy, it's a little bit hot, thank you. That I am going to be 65 and will have met my mother's age. I hope to live to be at least 95, but I know that I have enough financial wealth bubble from the farm and from this that I'm good till I'm 102. And how do I know that? Because Don Forbes from Forbes Wealth and Associates in Carberry, another CAFA colleague, he put me through his mill many years ago and said, "Elaine, you're good till you're 102. I said, "Thank you." And BDO will do the same, and so will your financial planner. So you need to find out, what is it the founders really need and want? And unfortunately, some of you are hanging on too tight, and you're killing the next generation. I have a blog called Strong Warning for 80-year-olds. And those are the people who are not going to let go until they leave in a very large box. And of course, we have small boxes now for ashes when people die. But I need to tell you, my intent is also to be ready to die at any time. So I now have a casket in my basement. It's a beautiful whitewashed pine box. It was made by Sheldon Dick, who will also make you one for under $2,000. And when Penny wanted to crawl into it last week, I said, "No, Penny, I don't think your mom's ready for that yet. Let's just put toys in it instead." And why am I telling you my casket story? Because we're all dying. And we have to have our wills in place, our power of attorney, and we need to have our health care directives ready, and we need to be ready, because where is it written that the old die first? I have sat in the bleachers over there with one of you over 10 years ago, and you said, "Elaine, I liked what you said. I need to get something done." He did not make it to his next Ag Days, and neither did his successor. And you know who I'm speaking of. You know this family. Your intention will drive your urgency and the sense of urgency. And I want the next generation, I want you as successors to initiate the conversation. So in our family meetings usually happen very informally, and the kids will say, "We need to make a decision on this." And we say, "Okay, after supper, we're meeting in the living room." If you could go home today from Ag Days and stop at Staples on your way home, please buy a flip chart. That $200 tax-deductible expense will help you share your intent and get it on paper. And when it's on paper, you can attack the issue without making the person feel awful. All right? My kids want me to do succession. My parents haven't given the farm to me yet. What do I do? Are you going to give the farm to your children? What do? First of all, you sit down and you have a conversation with yourself. Why do you expect things to be given to you? Is a young farmer willing to buy some part of the equity? This is the red flag of entitlement. Elaine, I've been on this farm milking cows since I was 7. I've been taking the eggs since I was 8. If I wasn't here, my parents wouldn't have any size of the wealth that they have. I'm entitled to have this farm. Oh, you are you? You heard David Chilton on this very stage about 4 or 5 years ago, the wealthy barber. What are the 2 words that millennial farmers never use? Save and wait. Right? Instagram is also killing agriculture. Because everybody wants to have an Instagram perfect life, and that's not reality. You might have to not have something in order to start a debt servicing plan with your parents. My kids want me to do succession. My parents haven't given the farm to me yet. What do I do? So what this guy is he's in this sandwich. He's this guy in Alberta whose dad is 80 years old, hanging on so tight that his kids, who are 25, are going, Elaine, there's no hope for us here. And as Patty Duran from FCC says, without hope, you're hooped. And so are you killing, and I'm looking at all of you who I think are over 75, close to 80, and some of you in this room are 90 because I just talked to you. If you are hooping your family, what do is you bring people together and say, Elaine Froese doesn't think this is a very good idea. And I'm happy for you to use me as your scapegoat. You can blame me for anything. I don't care because I'm over 50 and I don't care what you think. I don't even care if you like me anymore because I'm dying. I'm getting an MRI. I don't know if I have cancer or not, but my good friend just got it last month and I visited her on Friday. These wake-up calls are not what you need to get stuff done. You need to decide today that you have a vision as a founding couple. Your father is holding you back. Take your father to a seminar. Put him in front of my YouTube at Farm Family Coach and say, watch what this woman's saying, Dad. What do you think? Well, I like what she said about this, but I don't like what she said about 80-year-olds. She's not nice to 80-year-olds. Well, I can't be anymore because it's the 80-year-olds who are insecure about not knowing if there's enough money for the future. But here's another news flash, is that you have to pay attention to who you are and who's rebelling against what you want and who's towing the line for what you think is a good idea. I had a chicken farmer say, Elaine, what's my fair DNA paid just for being a kid in this family, besides being the one who helped Dad build the wealth? And it's not about your birth order anymore. It's about whether you're bringing skill and merit to the operation. What skill are you bringing? And how do you keep capturing that wealth? So there's lots of things to consider. But my kids want me to do succession. Yes. So start doing it. Because if you go to the lawyer without your father's blessing, it doesn't matter because you're going to take care of what you have control over. And then you can also say, Dad, it would be really helpful if you tell me, what do you need to have a good life at 85? So we've got that solved now, Dad. So do you think we could start moving some of the equity down to the next generation? And I have a case right now where it's going to skip this man, it's going to skip the middle guy, the founding next gen, and it's going to go straight to the grandson. And that can be a good or bad situation based on how successful the family communication was. All right. What is your vision for your farm? What's the vision for your family? What are you passionate about? Is it viable? Have you been listening to each other? Start having family meetings and get that done. The families that meet together, even with a giant Post-it note on your kitchen wall, are 21% more profitable. What would it look like to every farm represented in this room today if you were 21% more profitable when you came back to Ag Days 2021? It would be amazing. And this is based on the research of Dr. David Cole, that when you talk, when you work these things out, you can figure it out. The other thing I want you to check is your behavior. Because if Granddad is holding on tight, have you actually talked to Granddad and said, Dad, your behavior is holding us hostage. Do you realize the implications of Charlie and Tamara going down the road to another farm or to an agribusiness because you just won't let them have a piece of the action? Young farmers need skin in the game, and they need to understand how much debt they can service, okay? But behavior is your culture. So I have a young farmer in Lower Fraser Valley, BC. He's 35. You won't know who he is. His mother's divorced. His father's an alcoholic. Grandma's still holding on to a large chunk of the dairy business, unfortunately. And he is about to jump into a $5 million loan. But he gathers all of his siblings. And this, again, is a mindset shift in agriculture. Where is it written that even if you're the rich farming kid, you cannot take care of your siblings? Where was that written? It was written in a lot of people's handbooks, unfortunately, but not in mine and not in this young man's. Because he sat down his siblings and he said, look, one of the brothers is helping me on this farm. We're going to work hard to pay off this loan, and we're going to buy Grandma out. But I also need you to know that just because I'm worth $10 million on paper doesn't mean I have a lot of cash in my genes. But if you ever need anything to be financially successful or help you out of a hard situation, I'm your guy. And we've had the same conversation with our siblings, because in the Froese family, we purchased the Froese family farm from Wes's parents on June 16th, 1992. And why do I remember? Because the day before, his father came with an old-fashioned phone and started taking pictures. And we said, Dad, what are you doing? He says, I'm taking pictures. And we said, well, why? He said, because this is the last day that this farm is mine. And you see, we're not just dealing with numbers and balance sheets here, folks. We're dealing with a lot of emotion. There's fighting over who's going to have the right skill set to be the successor. There's fighting over unrealistic expectations. And all due respect, whoever's been shooting up the signs in my municipality, would you please stop doing that? This is my backyard. But no assumptions are secret. Are you assuming that your child even wants to have the debt load that you have? What assumptions are you making? And here's the kicker. This is what Maggie Van Camp and Elaine Froese are so passionate about, is not procrastinating and not having the next census say that this is going to be exactly the same pickle that we were in 5 years ago. Talk does not cook rice. Thank you for parking your butt here in these seats this afternoon to hear my message. But you will make me extremely happy if you go home and actually do something. Because the woman in Saskatoon said, Elaine, I'm not going to any more beepity-beep seminars. And I said, oh, that hurts me a little bit. What happened? She said, Elaine, I've been to 10 succession planning seminars. And no matter how many seminars we go to, nothing ever... Not today, folks. It's the last day. It can't keep happening that way. Because if you don't look at your risk, if you don't make better choices, you won't have the ability to be flexible to take advantage of opportunity. So here's your list. First of all, see a financial planner. Figure out, what are you going to live on? Now, you could text me. If you could do this quickly. We have exactly 10 minutes left. I'm curious, how much money will you need to want to live well? Is it $50K? Is it $80K? Because there's a family just up Highway 1 who shall remain nameless. But I met with them, 3 boys, parents. And at the family meeting, the parents said, oh, by the way, boys, from this cattle operation, we need $120,000 a year. And the boys were just like sheet white. They were so upset. So I went back 2 years later. I said, so after that meeting we had 2 years ago, I'm curious, what was the real number? The real number was $38,500. There's a pretty significant financial gap between $38,500 and $120,000. So we can ask for anything, but reality in farming may tell us a different story. The other question I just got in was, Elaine, my kids don't want to farm. My nephew does. What do I do? Say, woohoo! Somebody still wants to farm. That's a beautiful thing. Your nephew wants to farm, and we know this is not... Is he a good farmer? Does he have great management skills? Has he gone and taken his diploma in ag? Does he know about farm business management? If your nephew wants to farm, that's wonderful. Again, where is it written that your kids who you gave birth to have to farm? This month is January 2020. I've had 3 conversations this month, and this was my question. Why are you still there? That young man in Ontario who I spoke to last week, who's making $1,500 net with a wife and 2 children under 4, do you know what $1,500 times 12 is? Not enough. And I said, you expect to buy your father out? You're living in fairy tale land, man. And I said to him, why are you still there? And he said, Elaine, I'm here for my little boys. And that sounds lovely, but it's not going to happen because he doesn't have any plan and he has no traction with his parents to start having an access to equity in a way that the parents can get something for their equity, all right? So in this case, your kids don't want to farm, that's fine. Where is it written that we all need to be farmers? Look at all the ag businesses represented at Ag Days. On Twitter this morning, it said there's over 28,000 gaps in agriculture, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. So when I coach a young family and the family dynamic is really offside, I say, you have choices, you have options. Agriculture is the most amazing industry in Canada. Your life is not over if you don't farm. Oh, and by the way, another myth buster, if you stop farming or riding the air seeder, you are not going to die. Okay? Can we just get really clear about that? If you stop farming, you're not going to die. All right. Deadlines make people think. I want you to put a timeline. Would you please update your wills? Would you please visit us in the salon to figure out what your next step is for making your succession plan? Would you help other people along your journey get what they want? Because when you help other people get what you want, you'll get what you want. But here's the key question. Out of all the things that we've talked about in these last 50 minutes, what does fairness look like to you? Because we're all unique individuals, we value different things. I wear clothing from a thrift store. I buy things at a thrift store. The biggest problem in thrift stores now is that because of Instagram, way too many people have watched Marie Kondo and are doing the Japanese art of decluttering, and there's too much stuff. Fairness is not about stuff. Fairness is about everybody being successful. It's okay to ask for help. This is our crew at harvest time with 2 guys from Switzerland who are a huge blessing when they come and help us out. I want the sad stories to end. It's time for silence to stop as a form of violence. No more stonewalling, no more saying, I don't want to talk about this. You say, we have to talk about this. And if you're not comfortable doing it privately in your family, that's when you build your team of advisors, all right? Stop avoiding conflict. Conflict is a wonderful thing. It helps you figure out what everybody wants, all right? And here's where we'll end. Being fair is an intention of your heart. My intention with this presentation this afternoon is to rattle your chains. My intention is that you now have a couple of conversation starters. What does fairness look like to you? Why is this so important to you? Tell me about if I died tomorrow, what would you want from me? How do you want the legacy to continue? There's a great book called moolala.ca, What Smart People Do with Their Money. No, that's not what it's called. It's called Why Smart People Do Dumb Things with Their Money. And if you don't know what a tax-free savings account is, there's $6,000 that you could park this year that is not taxable by the government. That would be a beautiful thing. So here's my number. If you have any more texts, I've got the 5-minute sign. Okay, one person told me that they can live on $40,000. If you'd like to put up your hand, everybody in this room would like to adopt you as their parent. because that's a very reasonable amount of money. That's not very much. Dr. Cole said that most farmers like to live on the same price as a new Corvette. And the last time I checked at Murray Chevolds, their Corvette was $95,000 Canadian. Okay? So figure out what that number is going to be. Now, Wes is here, and many of you know he had an accident. This is his new truck. But when Wes bought this truck after his accident, he wanted to be treated fairly, as you do when you do your equipment deals. You want to know the financing is going to be good, that you're treated with respect, that your intention to get the kind of product that you decided to buy, and that you both have a relationship after you've done that. So it's time to go out from this place and do 3 things. Empower your family, have really good conversations, ask good questions. The second thing I want you to do is increase your profit on your farm and manage your risk by having those conversations. And the third thing I want you to do is secure your legacy. I've written in Grain News for 25 years, and I will continue to write. But now you have my phone number, and I'm asking you for what would be the most meaningful message for me to carry on. Again, please take the postcards as you leave the room. Please fill out the white little sheets. And the BDO staff is going to come and pick up this bench, and we're going to have a draw to see who wins it. And Kyle is in the audience. Thank you, Kyle, for making this. His little boy was sitting on the bench. You don't get his little boy. You just get the bench. Okay? So I want you to leave this place with a really deep knowledge that you are now empowered to have a different conversation in agriculture, and it's your farm, it's your family, and it's your choice. So please send me #HealingStoriesForAg and go out there and make amazing choices. God bless you on your journey.